Now this has caused the critics of the Bible heyday. They love this. They can really make mincemeat of the Bible here. Because clearly you know that Matthew, in chapter 1, uses this as a prophecy of the virgin birth of Jesus. You know that. Everybody knows that. So the critics are careful to point out, well, the word for virgin here just means a young girl. It's not the technical term, batula in Hebrew for technically a virgin. It's simply the word alma, which means a young lady unmarried. So poor old Matthew, this is the way that, now the critic, devil loves this, but poor old Matthew, you know, idiot that he was, he read this and he got all confused. And he said, I found a prophecy about this thing. Well, it wasn't at all a prophecy. This is the critic speaking now. It wasn't a prophecy because it simply says a young lady will conceive and bear a child. And anyway, it's a prophecy for Ahaz and his crowd, isn't it? Clearly. It's some sign given to Ahaz. Well, what good is a sign to Ahaz for something that's going to be 800 years later? Got it? That's the critic. However, Matthew was much smarter than that. Matthew was right to use this as a prophecy. So there is a double fulfillment here. Often prophecies are fulfilled twice. They're fulfilled in one sense. Example would be Antiochus Epiphanes was the Antichrist of the Old Testament times. We all know that he tried to butcher Jews in 167 BC. We know that. Everybody knows that. He had women with their dead children slung around their shoulders marching up and down the street. And this is Hitlerite stuff. Gone mad. That's Antiochus Epiphanes. We know that was true in history. But we also know that Jesus predicts this of a future Antichrist. That's a double fulfillment. We know that. God can repeat things. What about the first Exodus? That happened. We know the first Exodus. It says that in the future God's going to do a second Exodus and bring these poor Israelite people out of the captivity they're in and bring them into the land finally, right? So you get lots of double fulfillment. So this would have to be a local fulfillment to make any sense. Not necessarily a virgin birth literally, wouldn't it? You could have a young girl and maybe there's there might be a miraculous element here. You know, maybe she couldn't. I don't know. I'm speculating. She couldn't have a child, but she did. But anyway, she comes up and gets pregnant, but not supernaturally like Mary. So there's some fulfillment at the time of Ahaz. We don't know exactly, but that's not the end of it, because we know that Matthew, who's an inspired reader, says, the writer rather, says this is going to happen 800 years later. It did happen 800 years later. So here you've got then Alma, which means just a young lady. When the translators translated the Old Testament into Greek, we call that the Septuagint, this is from the 3rd century BC, when they translated this word Alma, which means a young girl, rather than Betula, which would be more technically a virgin, they chose to use a Greek word, Parthenos, which is technically a virgin. That's interesting. They used the word deliberately. Something suggests that they knew in their tradition there was something special about this. And so they used the word Parthenos, which is technically a virgin. Matthew is reading the Septuagint. People don't know this. They think they were reading the Hebrew Bible. They were largely reading the Greek version. They often quote from the Greek version. Sometimes it differs slightly from the Hebrew version. That's all right. That's what they did. So when Matthew found this, he read Parthenos, which is technically a virgin. And he saw immediately that fits exactly the Mary situation. See how that works? Now, why the translators of the Septuagint from Hebrew into Greek, why they used Parthenos, the technical word, is a little obscure. But even Jews seem to have that tradition of a virginal conception. So it fits with Matthew. Nianis is a young girl in Greek. This is Parthenos, which is technically a virgin. So this is an interesting test because people say, look, the Bible's all nonsense. They love this. Poor old Matthew didn't know the difference. This was obviously a fulfillment in the time of Ahaz, which it was, but it wasn't the ultimate fulfillment. Could well have been Isaiah's son. Now, how do we know this? Because look at 16. Before the boy will know enough to refuse evil and choose good, you know, when he's a toddler, the land whose kings you're so scared of, that threat, will be forsaken. That's not how it worked for the time of Jesus. Got it? So that obviously has a local fulfillment. John MacArthur's Bible will get this part right. He'll do well with all of this. It says Immanuel, which means with us is God, by the way. Right. With us is God. Not God with us, that's the same thing roughly, but to be quite accurate, Immanuel, with us, Ed. With us is God. And Jesus, of course, is the ultimate Immanuel. with us is God. Why? Because God was in Christ, and God is very much with us in Christ. That's quite clear. Because Trinitarians have a heyday with this. They say, there is God, you see. Well, you just told me about two gods. That's silly. Don't know about two gods. If you're going to tell me that Jesus is God, we're talking two gods. That's silly. That's about as silly as saying, what sort of software did Paul have on his computer? Or we know that the Queen of England always regularly flies the American flag over Buckingham Palace. We know that's not true. Don't be silly. Two gods? Don't go there. Surely you understand that 11,000 singular personal pronouns mean one person. So with your friends on the Trinity, you do this. Can we agree that a singular personal pronoun means one person? And I'll go there. That's dangerous. Can we agree that your second grade English teacher taught you that a singular personal pronoun means a single person? So this is obviously not God, but Immanuel is a sign. God is with us is God. Oh, here's another. It's a title rather than a given name, I think. Otherwise she would have said, Immanuel's lunchtime, come in now. Yeah. Yeshua, yeah. Jesus, doesn't matter what language you do. Yeah. But he is, now here's a good one. In Proverbs 30, you'll find that a woman called her son Ithiel. In Proverbs 30, a woman there called her son Ithiel, I-T-H-I-E-L. Do you know what that means? With me is God. Ithiel. This is a good Unitarian proof. They've been using it for 400 years. You may not have heard this, but Ithiel means with me is God. Alright, so you're telling me that woman was calling her child God? She thought she'd had just born God? Don't be silly. It's interesting only that when the Jews translated it in Greek, they used, when they read this passage, and they were translating much later, right, 3rd century BC, when they put this into Greek, they said Parthenos, which is technically a virgin. So somehow they knew there was a miraculous sign yet to be fulfilled. Proverbs 30, we might as well look it up. 30 verse 1, there we go. Proverbs 30, the words of Agur, Proverbs 30 verse 1. The son of Yakeh, they're very keen to know who everybody is here. The oracle, the man declares to Ithiel, there he is. Ithiel means God is with me. So that woman baptized her child in a title, obviously. It could have been his name as well, I don't know. But it means God is with me. So obviously she didn't think her child was God.
What about the name Elijah?
Yeah.
It means God Jehovah.
Of course. Elijah is, my God is Yah. That's fine. My God, that's what I stand for. Doesn't mean I'm God. It's silly. They love to use God's name. So anyway, whatever the fulfillment of this was in the 8th century BC, is what we're reading here, the time of Ahaz, whatever that was, to what degree miraculous, literally, I don't know. It doesn't say. All I know is there is a fulfillment of some sort, otherwise it's irrelevant for Ahaz, right? And the evangelicals get this right, by the way. What we're doing this morning is standard. It's standard in all the Bible. It has a local fulfillment in order for it to be a sign in some sense. The interesting thing is that somehow the Jews sensed there was more to this, because when they're translating this, 2nd century BC, they fully well know there's something going on here. And Matthew then knew that tradition. Where Matthew learned it, presumably from the rabbi's school. I don't know, we don't know that. If God wants to give you a sign, God will give you a sign. Oh, you want to stop it? No, don't go there. It made God angry that this idiot king, this very less than intelligent king, verse 12, Ahaz said, not too smart, I'm not going to ask for any sign. I'm not going to test God. Oh, look at me, I'm so righteous.